Okay, so I have watched the first season of Attack on Titan and read the first 8 volumes that go alongside of it, and I am so into it. Just in the general setup of the world and the characters, the situation that they're in, living in this world where they've had to build up these 50-meter walls in order to keep these Titans out for their survival, but also they have to learn their behaviors and learn their patterns and their physical structures in order to know how to defend against them so that they can survive and protect their own. But there's always this impending threat. And so it's their survival, it's their defenses that they've built up and are still trying to figure out in real time, as well as just the emphasis on the despair and hopelessness that they're living in, this fight for freedom, but also the day-to-day, or rather the despair that is living in this situation day after day. I think the emotional hits are incredible. The amazing action sequences mixed with the score is unbelievable. It has the hype, but it also has the impact. And along with all of that, the mystery, the way that this world, this series, is giving so many tiny little clues and then slowly peeling back the reveals of what this world is, how the Titans work, how it affects the people that are living in the system as well, and like who is involved in it all. The way it slowly reveals things as it's also feeding me little clues to help me get there too. I've developed a small obsession. So at least now, at this level of enjoyment that I'm experiencing right now, I'm just gonna lean into it and be a little bit annoying. So I have this video for you, which is ideally going to be more alongside the style of videos that I typically do. More polished, I've thought through what I want to say, I am trying to be concise and cohesive as I talk about the plot, characters, and themes. And then tomorrow, as a bonus video, because I know it won't be for everyone, I also have a vlog style video that I've been recording as I've been reading through. After I finish a volume, I just turn on the camera and kind of dig into more of the impactful scenes for each volume, talk about the differences in the anime and the manga, theorize relentlessly, hyper-fixate on certain things that I think might be clues. I have a notepad that I don't have on me right now, but I go through the notepad there at the end and kind of just collect all the information I have and what I'm supposed to do with it all. So this is the standard video that I typically do. That one is more going to be, you know, the ravings of a mad woman, and I haven't finished editing it yet, but it's probably going to be around an hour and a half long. So like I said, bonus video. It's just going to be as an aside for anyone that wants that kind of nonsense. That'll be out tomorrow, assuming I can finish the edits in time. Also, if you care, I will be starting season 2 on Saturday, and after each volume, well actually after each chapter, I chat about it on my Discord, on my Patreon, so you're welcome to join the Patreon if you want to. If you don't worry, there's gonna be plenty of content. Okay, let's talk about Attack on Titan. From the introduction, this series gripped me. From the urgency of the people as they zoom through the trees to get to the Titan, then grounding us with Eren and Mikasa and displaying to us how seriously Eren takes the threat and how much he idolizes the role of the military, and how much he feels trapped in this life hiding behind the walls. It was when the heroes came home that I got my first taste of what this series would be. Eren looked towards these people as the ones that were doing the glorious work of pushing back the enemy and fighting for their survival and freedom. But when we see the heroes, we see bandaged bodies and haunted eyes. And when a mother learns that her son died on this mission, the only comfort she wanted was to know that his sacrifice was at least able to bring humanity closer to beating back the Titans. And the answer was no. All the death, all the pain was worthless. They didn't get any closer to finding out what the Titans really were. We get a glimpse into what motivates Eren to join the military, his worldview, his friendships, and then reinforce the never-ending threat that was already touched on in the beginning of the chapter. Except this time, we bring it close and watch as it destroys the security that Eren had. It kicks a hole in the impenetrable wall, rampages their fortress, and destroys his family. We watch Eren's mother be eaten by a Titan while he's dragged away screaming. It's an incredible start to the series. We're instantly grounded to what the threat is that they're facing day in and day out, how urgent it is, and also how insurmountable it feels, even to the people that are meant to be guarding against this threat. It still feels impossible. I don't remember that character's name, the one that I just had next to me on the screen, but he went forward to protect Eren and Mikasa, and then saw the Titan in front of him and realized, I can't do it, and picked the kids up and ran. It was such an effective start to the series, but also immediately shows us the way the world progresses. We learn really early on that the walls began as this fortress, and then over time they've been pushed back, and walls have fallen, areas have fallen to the control of the Titans, which tells us that this is an impending threat that will continue to smother them until they're snuffed out. But we also see the adaptability of the humans. Before, in that first attack with the colossal Titan, they didn't know how to fight the Titans. And then over those 5 years that they've been training, they've also been collecting intel. They've also been learning, okay, what are they made of? They don't know. They just know they're hot. But how durable are they? Do they have any weak points? Is there any amount of intelligence or intentionality? Why are they feeding on people? Can they choose their forms? All of these things, feeding on people, eating people, all of these things, these are data points that they're collecting, somewhat through the people who are going out and scouting and trying to understand the Titans, and some through, I don't know how to pronounce, is it Hage? The mad scientist, you know what I'm talking about. Collecting information on the Titans, experimenting on them, learning about them. We also get that through a notebook. They are adapting and learning and trying to figure out how to survive in this cruel world. And as they try new things and learn more about the world and the Titans, we're getting this information too. And so we are building up all of the notes in our notebook as well to try to solve the mystery before the series does, or at least that's what I'm doing. The voice acting in this series, I watched the sub, is amazing. Oh my goodness. The voice actor for Eren in the sub, impeccable. The choreography of the fights in the anime, especially in the manga, I wasn't always able to follow everything, but in the anime, the way they shot through the trees and wrapped around the Titans, the way they moved in these action sequences, amazing. Couple that with the score. The music in this series, or at least in season 1, elevates every scene it plays in. So much emotion, so much hype, so much tragedy, unbelievable. The art in the manga is pretty rough at first, but I do think even just in the 8 volumes I've read, it is already improving. And it's not a really big fuss to me because I love the story so much. So Eren can turn into a Titan. I had a million theories formed and then evolved throughout this first season. From Eren getting eaten and then turning Titan and protecting them, to the cadets cornering the Titans and attacking them as a team. From Eren losing himself as a Titan while Armin screams at him, to him lifting the boulder and stopping the attacks. From the female Titan's first appearance and interaction with Armin, to leading her into the trap, that failing, then trying to attack again, that failing, to unraveling the mystery of who the female Titan is, and losing lives, losing livelihoods, displacing people to try to bring her down, only to learn that the threat is so much greater than we even realized from the start. There are so many incredible scenes in this first season, incredible reveals that had so much build up that drew you into the mystery alongside of it. Exciting, fist-bumping moments, but also terrible, terrible tragedies. It's a series that drew me in from the first episode, from the first volume, and really just never let me go. I was able to guess that Eren was the Titan that was defending Mikasa and that was fighting the other Titans on behalf of the humans because of his hair, and I was able to piece together a guess that it was Annie that was the female Titan. I wasn't sure though. I really didn't feel super confident in my guess, but it was the best guess I had. And even with that being true, the reveal was amazing. The scene where she wouldn't follow them into the tunnel and then she turned to Titan still was so good. But the Annie guess I had to work towards. I spent about an hour to an hour and a half digging back through the volumes because I knew the reveal was probably going to happen at the end of the season. So I was like, I gotta piece this together before. And so I spent a good amount of time just digging through the volumes, piecing together clues, and figuring out my best guess that I could do. Again, it's all vlogged. It'll be there tomorrow if that's your thing. But this is a series that begs me to try to solve the puzzle too. I have a bunch of puzzle pieces in my hands, too many. I don't know what the final picture is going to look like, but I feel compelled to try to fit them together and figure this puzzle out. It feels too big for me, but I'm having so much fun trying. It feels like a massive mystery, but it also feels like one that wants to be solved. It doesn't feel like one that it's intentionally withholding information or making things overly complicated and convoluted for the sake of big reveals. It feels organic and honest, which is why I'm so into trying to figure it out. So we have these crazy hype scenes and reveals, but we mix all that with tragedy and despair. Like people acting irrationally in the sight of someone that they loved being ripped apart, or being terrified in the middle of battle and your comrade sees no hope, so he ends things himself. How quick and jarring that is, but it also just reinforces how terrifying and hopeless their situation feels. There's this idealism that humanity would someday band together that's being directly challenged on page, and that unification isn't really something that humanity is inclined to do. In fact, selfishness is the norm for humanity, and that's not a good thing for us. It has people saying, yes, I did this for the greater good, and then at the same time cuts to a child bleeding and crying on the street. It poses the trial of not knowing if the move that seems correct actually is. It poses the pain of sacrificing valuable, important lives and asks, was it worth it? It directly asks the question, people are dying, and for what? One thing that got honed in on a few times is how cruel this world is. For Armin, it was the bullies hurting him and his friends defending him. And that motivated him to not take the easy career in the military, but to push himself to fight. For Mikasa, it was realizing that she's witnessed animals killing and eating each other, and humans killing and eating animals, and it gave her the motivation to stand up and fight her attackers. It seems to be drawing a parallel from the order of the world to the order of the Titans. That living things killing and eating other living things somehow fits into the wider cycle that we're living in. But also emphasizing that if they don't fight in this cruel world, then they can't win. As well as an emphasis on not letting each other fight alone. That in the big ways and in the small ways, we do need each other. It keeps us alive, and it shapes who we become. Again, I have a notebook on the Titans, and I'm still kind of collecting data on them, but it's been made very clear that they are tools, that they are intelligent, more intelligent than we initially realized, but also that there is some sort of instinctual thing that does control them to some extent. But it's also been made very clear that they aren't some animalistic, instinct-driven, mindless, zombified killer, as they're understood to be at the beginning of the series, but that, especially in that side story, they appear very tormented by this instinct that they're following. So while I do see in the situation that they're in, we have the humans who are being attacked and trying to defend and trying to fight for their freedom and their survival, and then we have the Titans who we don't really know a lot about, but we do know that they don't need to eat people, yet they are. And then we have Eren, who is the bridge between them, or the hybrid, yet both sides seem to view him as the other side. The humans, at least at first, are very afraid of Eren, asking him directly, are you a Titan or are you a human? And the answer is that he seems to be a little bit of both. He is naturally human, but something that his father has injected him with has given him the ability to turn Titan as well, and that is directly influencing him, very much bodily and mentally, it seems. But each time he turns, even slightly, even just an arm, each time he turns, the people freak out. They point their guns at him. They're afraid of him. They put him on trial. They consider dissecting him. People are terrified of him because they view him primarily as Titan. Just the same, when he turns Titan, the Titans are still trying to eat him, and they did the same for Annie. When she turned Titan, they turned on her and tried to eat her after she called to them and brought them to her so that she could then go through the trees and start killing people some more, except in human form, in disguise. Oh man, all the female Titan stuff was just so good. But it seems like both sides of this war have a lot of complexity in their situation, and it seems like both sides view Eren and Annie, the hybrids, as the opposing side. It does look like humanity is starting to work with Eren, but I don't think that friction is going to disappear. And just the same, it seems like Annie is working for someone else, working for someone. Well, I guess I'll get to my theories on that in a little bit. Another big theme, which I've already touched on in this video, is the cost of war. It's in the little things that I've already mentioned, the way people are reacting, the way the despair they feel like after Marco died, and they were just identifying bodies. There was no time to grieve, but Jean was so affected by it. Naturally, of course, everyone is constantly affected by how impossible and hopeless their situation feels, by how excited and hopeful they feel in action and like they're going to keep account of how many Titans they fell and have a competition of it, and then they watch their comrades die, and then they realize we might not make it out either. None of this is worth it, is it? We can't celebrate. We may have come out of this battle victorious, but we can't celebrate because 20% of our people died in this battle. But also, Levi really challenges Eren to think for himself. Don't just fall in line. Don't just follow orders. Don't just do what you're instructed to do. Think. Do you want to turn Titan, or do you want to trust your comrades? Because I don't know if what we're doing is the right answer. We can't know until it's over if this is all worth it or not. And Eren chooses to trust his comrades, and he watches them each die. And they go into these battles thinking, we've got it planned out. We have a plan A, we have a plan B, we have a plan C, and it all fails. And especially here in these last 3 volumes, it was failure after failure after failure. It was loss of life after loss of life after loss of life. And it was the pain and suffering of this and the question of, how do we know what the right answer here is? And are these sacrifices even worth it? All for what? And it circles back to the beginning with the way this season ended. It circles back to the way it began, with Eren excitedly running out to see the heroes come home and can't wait to see the people that he looks up to, the ones that are going to get them their freedom. And what they have are haunted eyes, people who are tormented over what they've seen and experienced, and more importantly, over the fact that it was all for nothing. They didn't advance their movement. They didn't get any more free. They didn't learn anything more about the Titans. The deaths were meaningless. And you had people reacting to that in their pain and in their loss and in their hopelessness. And then just the same, after their failed missions, Eren and the few surviving people also returned home with haunted eyes, not even with the bodies to return with. It was an anime exclusive scene of them having to even leave the bodies behind to get away, having to make that choice again to sacrifice them. Even though their lives were already gone, they were at least going to bring something back to the families, and they couldn't even do that now. There are kids rushing up to see the heroes come home at the end of the series as well, except this time the hero is Eren laying in the wagon with his childhood wonder of the heroisms of combat completely shattered, as he too is shattered at at the bottom of this wagon, at the floor of this wagon. And these themes are reinforced through the characters as well. Marco, who had this idealistic, hopeful, beautiful idea of what the MP is, being close to the king, serving the cause, and then in an instant, off page, he dies. It wasn't glorious, it wasn't magnificent, we didn't watch him go out in this heroic way. I mean, I do think it was heroic still, but it was fast, and then it was over, and we didn't even see how it happened, and his comrades don't even know exactly what his last moments were. I already mentioned we saw it in Levi, who is telling Eren to think for himself. You are going to be in a leadership position soon, so you have to be able to think. We see it in Jean, who started off as someone who just wanted to get the MP title so he could be in the inner wall and live comfortably and peacefully. He viewed things from a very selfish perspective. He didn't care about the greater cause. He was the selfishness that Annie talks about when she's in the MPs. He was the average man. That person that is the antithesis of that idealism that I mentioned earlier in the video, that, you know, people would unify, but in reality, that's just not what a lot of people, many people are not inclined to that. They don't fight for that. But Jean was someone who was inclined towards selfishness, and through his experience and through wanting to not watch his comrades fight alone, he stands up, he rises up to the occasion and becomes an incredible, selfless leader, choosing to not take the cushy job that he could have had, but instead to fight for the greater good, for people. And he sees so much more pain and suffering because of that choice, but he also is doing so much more by choosing to be, from the conversation, harkening back to the conversation that Annie had when she was an MP, he's choosing to be someone who's special, who's extraordinary, who's going outside of the norm and actually working towards something good. Okay, I'll stop harping on the characters, though I could go on. Like, the characters really reinforce the themes of this story. But I do want to go into some of the theories I have. Again, in the vlog, I go through my notebook and kind of talk about each of the characters more, because there's a lot to talk about with these characters. Even though I do think that each of the characters, there's a lot of ground laying that's happened so far, and there will be a lot to build on with them, I still feel like I could write a solid paragraph for each and every character at least. Don't worry, I love Levi. And Sasha. I haven't talked about Sasha at all in this video, but boy do I love Sasha. Okay. Here's the thing with Dr. Jaeger. This is what I know about him. Here's some of the things that I know about him. He's the town benefactor, which seems to give him a certain level of power and influence, at least in certain areas. Another way that he's gained trust and influence is through major medical aid, like when a disease was killing off an entire town and he came with an antibody that seemed to have saved everyone. And current day, his whereabouts are unknown. But in the flashbacks, we've seen him witness Eren wanting not to fall in line with expectations and instead go outside the wall, which led to him telling Eren he'll show him what's inside his murder basement. I mean, totally normal basement. And we know that his wife's death made him act crazy and inject something into Eren's arm. When he did that, he told Eren that it would be a hard and merciless road, but that he had to get to the basement and then he would understand. He was also crying when he did that, so I think that he thought that this was necessary for the greater good and not something that he really reveled in. It's pretty much confirmed in the manga that Eren's dad, more so in the manga than in the anime, I think, that Eren's dad did what he injected Eren with is the Titan serum. Like, he turned Eren Titan. Actually, it might have been explicitly stated in the anime too. It gets kind of jumbled where I got information from which format. But based off of some of the things that Annie has said and based off of some of the flashbacks and information that we have on Eren's dad, I do think that he is a part of either a rebel group or a extremist group that is going against the government, going against the methods that the government is using to try to protect the people, and they're using their own methods, which I guess is to create these hybrid titans. At this time, I don't think that Dr. Jaeger is a mustache-twirling baddie. I think that it's probably complicated and he probably is trying to do what he perceives as best. Again, harkening back to the things that Levi said, that we don't know what's best until we've already made the decision and seen how it plays out. So the government is in their own way, in their own governmental way, trying to do what they deem best. And then I think that this group that Aaron's dad is a part of is also doing that. And so when Annie gobbled Aaron up, put him in her mouth and ran off, I do think that she was trying to take him to Aaron's dad. But I could be wrong, because Aaron's dad was really, really intense about, like, go to the basement. That'll explain everything. You'll know what to do next. So maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was trying to take him to her dad. Because that last little flashback that she had where he said, you know, I know that this is hard. I know I haven't done everything right. You may do terrible things. The world may turn against you. Just promise me that you'll come back to me. So maybe it's her dad that's a part of this extremist/rebel group. I don't know. I don't have any really good theories right now about where we're going. I do know that this season ended with there being titans inside of the walls. So there's a lot more than we thought, and maybe they're sleeping, because that one seemed to be waking up, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think this video leaned more heavily on themes than it did on specific plot beats, but I do focus a lot more on specific plot beats in the video tomorrow, because I'm talking about each volume as I'm going along. But just know that I have so aggressively loved the first season, from the different plot beats, the crazy action, the amazing reveals, trying to piece everything together, as well as the importance and heaviness put on the cost of all of this. And on the fact that we don't always win. We don't always go out on a mission and succeed. And in fact, at least in season 1, more often than not, we fail. This problem is so much bigger than what we're able to deal with right now. Which is why they're having to lean on Aaron despite not fully trusting him. Probably not going to help their trust issues by the fact that they had a spy in their midst. And probably have more, because we still have to deal with the colossal giant, the colossal titan and the colossal titan and the armored titan, plus all the rest. Are those all controlled by people too? Anyway, honestly, I could probably go on for another hour, but again, I have another video going where I do, so I will stop. I'm really trying hard to avoid spoilers right now, so I'm only going to be reading the couple, like the dozen top most upvoted comments, you know, that YouTube filters for me, pushes to the top, and then I'm not going to scroll very far because I really super don't want to get spoiled. I am loving the series. I am loving talking about it, so I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you again soon. Bye.